Okay. Hi. I'm Tristan, and I'm B.
I'm Kellen, and I'm C.
I'm Abby, and I'm A.
And I'm Florence, and I am D.
Okay.
Okay, I couldn't really see the time.
Oh, because it was white.
Sorry.
Just be like, what?
Alright.
So.
Okay.
All.
Well,
I think we can
did you want to start?
I mean, we don't have to technically discuss what we posted.
Yeah,
Because
It's
most
like
of it
our
was just
questions and
everything that
ideas.
everyone was supposed to do, except for the one that was.
Yeah, everything.
we could just skip the vocab for sure.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I was a little confused because when I was going through the textbook, there for assimilation. I mean, we've talked about it a lot, but I didn't find anything like for the textbook of what it was talking about. Because you know how like it kind of talks about it in different contexts for different classes almost. I didn't.
I don't think I found it.
Because I found a
like the
Nomi
actual,
or
like,
Nami or whatever.
Yeah.
Italicized assimilation.
Yeah.
I think it's just an inference.
I mean, there was like a chart, but the chart was confusing to me. So.
Yeah. I didn't know what acculturation was.
Oh, I had
Before
that.
Yeah, that
this
was fun.
chapter.
I never even heard of a culture.
Yeah,
before.
I thought it was cool though. I didn't realize what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's interesting because like culture shock is a part of it, and I mean I hear culture shock all the time, but I've never heard of acculturation.
Yeah. It was really interesting to me to read that part because it talked about the culture shock, and I'm studying abroad in the fall. And so in my study abroad class that I'm in right now, we just finished talking about culture shock and like what it does and like, you know, what it is and everything. Because you always hear about culture shock, but it's just like, okay, well, what actually is culture shock? And so, I don't know, it was interesting reading that, and I didn't even think twice about it, like dealing with students who are newcomers. Just like, oh, like, I don't know, I feel like we, in our classes, talk a lot about how, you know, they go through those stages of like language and everything because we focus so much on language, but like not
There's
so much
so
on like
much-
their
yeah.
just well-being of being
That's
a
really
person and everything. So I don't know, I thought that just caught my eye while I was reading, and it made me interested in it. I guess you learn a new word that kind of means the same thing, but kind of doesn't.
Yeah.
I thought there was an interesting part. So it talked about acculturation, and then it talked about enculturation, which is just like basically like the lens that people look through, like how they grow up. And it was talking about, there's one part of the textbook that says teachers who are able to identify their own cultural lenses are usually better able to recognize how that lens distorts their perspective of other people. And that just reminded me of like what we did in the class when we like went through that whole thing about like all the ways that like all the outside circles affect us, and that just reminded me of that. It's like the same thing, but
same here. I was like, oh, fun stuff knowledge.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yep.
I thought it was interesting when it talked about the Nomi. Is that how you say that?
Yeah.
And how it was like no man's land. I mean, I didn't know that word before coming into this, but I don't know. I thought it was interesting how it's like the third culture and like cultural breakdown as a result of rapid change, and how it's like the no man's land of the whole culture shock. And so,
well, that's like that one video that was posted. I like went to watch it because she said to watch the third culture video, and then I realized that we had watched it for another class. I forget which one, but I'd already seen that video before.
Yeah.
And I just like really liked that video because it's just really interesting to hear about that. How they're like, well, I don't belong here. I don't belong here.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what I am, but it like makes up a big part of who they are.
Yeah. And it's also interesting how it stated how, like, some phases of that will be super quick, and some will like last an entire lifetime. And it's just like, geez, like you could have,
crazy.
like you could have a third grader or a kindergartner, like a super little one, going through that, and like you may see them like graduate through the elementary school and stuff like that, but like I don't know, that may carry with them their entire lives.
Yeah.
So,
It's just really interesting too, though, because I was never really introduced to that word being younger, and like being at this age, you hear about so many people. So I wish they would have introduced this to me when I was younger, because people are introduced as multicultural, you know, all those things, but the whole third culture kind of thing, it's like you don't hear it, and it kind of made me mad because I wanted to learn more about it when I was younger, but I didn't even know there was a word for it.
Yeah.
Do you think that that's something that like we need to teach in school?
Like,
or
it's
like
okay to
sit
be-
down and talk with them
to
about
not
that?
choose?
Or is that like something that shouldn't be brought, you know, like one of those things that like shouldn't be brought to the surface if they don't seem to be effective, you know, like
Yeah.
that sounds bad.
Because
but,
either
like,
I
it
feel
could
like it
make
might be take it as it comes for every different student, because every different student is gonna come across like different parts of that at a different time, and so and maybe not even be phased by some parts of it, and so I think the best way to handle it would be student by student, considering. I mean,
but
I
how
don't
did
know
you
how
know? Like, you know,
Yeah.
like you were saying, like you didn't know there was a word for it, or like that it was like you knew it was a thing, but not like an actual like thing.
Was it like more like a feeling, not a set something that you could relate to?
Not necessarily that I could relate to,
But like other people.
for other people, yes, because I know one of our classmates in our cohort, Tori, she was raised in Japan, so I mean, thinking like I don't really know
I
for
haven't
sure.
seen Tori in so long.
I know.
But she was raised in Japan, so I was thinking, oh, does she think that Japan is her home, or you know, where
Yeah.
does she consider home? It just caught my interest because I got to know
I
Tori.
think it's so interesting.
Yeah, so it
And like, yeah, would you want to tell kids early on about like so that they feel like there's something that they can relate to, that other people also are going through like this same feeling of like not knowing where they belong, or is pointing it out gonna make them feel like an outsider?
Yeah, like, oh, by the way, if you didn't notice, like
You're not part of this and you're not part of that. So
but
what
then
are
at the
you?
same time, would like that seems only fair to say like, hey, others are experiencing this as well.
Yeah.
But then again, it's also it's also how you word it. Like, where is home to you? Like,
Yeah.
some people could, or who lives in your home? Like, it could just be like their family, and then it could just be a house, or
Yeah,
they don't
it's like a
really.
video.
It's like kind of a more, not really like a bigger. What is the right word I'm saying? It's like a bigger category, I guess you could say, or a bigger. I don't know the word I'm using. But yeah, it's a bigger field to think about versus like home could be like one
Yeah.
thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and if they are young, they could still be traveling and stuff like that. So
Mm-hmm.
that's something we could ask, Will.
Yeah.
What was it? Sorry.
I mean, there's a lot of different little questions. Like, is it appropriate to
And it's before 7 minutes.
Yeah.
ask or maybe discuss?
To-
I don't know, to
Inform
about the anomie of
third
the
culture.
occurrence of anomie
Yeah.
or the no man's
To-
land,
Yeah, I don't know.
the third culture, I guess.
Also, like, I don't know if this is technically on the same topic. I mean, it kind of is, but I always wonder about, like, how that, like, the third culture and, like, growing up in different places affects kids. Because, for instance, like, when I'm an adult, I want to travel. So if I end up having kids, I want them to come with me. But, like, pulling them out of school to go to new places and, like, having them in different, like, grow up in different places, like, I feel like that's really hard on kids.
Yeah. I have half sister has some kids, and her husband is part of the Navy, I believe, or something. Anyways, they live, you know, it's kind of like Emily, like they're gonna be moving every however
2
many
years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, these kids have gone from living in Japan to like the East Coast to the West Coast. Like they've been like all over the world, like living, and especially just like traveling lots in the U.S. and moving to different places. And like I don't know, I barely see them ever because right now they're living on the East Coast in Maine, so it's just like that's a long ways away. So I don't know if like.
To me, at this age, it seems super cool to do that. But like for kids that are like trying to discover who they are and like grow up, I feel like that would be really hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's because we think it's cool because we want to go and see all these cool places. But for kids, like at a certain age, I feel like you don't.
Yeah,
It's
you
not
need
as
that
cool
security.
for you. Yeah, you need that security. Like it's not like an amazing thing really to see all these places if you don't even realize like where you've come from, really who you are.
Yeah, so they have no enculturation.
Yeah.
and they keep getting culture shocks every time they move.
I think it impacts their funds of knowledge because like where
Yeah.
they are like impacts like their circle.
Yeah.
They're like
And if it keeps changing, like
it's constant.
Yeah.
I mean like ours, like we said in class, like it's it's still changing but at a gradual pace, I guess. Pace you could say. But then those kids who are constantly moving have constant changes.
So that
you get a lot of
question
students like that.
of like, well, where's home? Like that can be like a really tricky question.
Yeah.
Because
Is it where they were born?
Yeah,
Is it...
maybe they're an immigrant or maybe they are in a military family or something like that. And like those kids, they don't like when you say, well, I was born here, but then it moved here and here and here. Like you don't really have like a.
There was an activity, I think maybe it was in the book, and it was like origins map, and it talked about like a different type of origin rather than where like your base. It talked about like you could do like where you were born, or you could do like where your ethnicity is from, like where you identify, where that kind of like ethnicity, nationality derives from.
I actually really like that idea.
Yeah.
And I mean, if if it is okay to discuss this with my students, I kind of would like to do that. Maybe like a culture night thing. So so all my students are able to see, oh, they're from this, oh, I'm from there too. But kind of like touching the water a little, but not like fully diving in with the topic.
Yeah. That's something that I feel like is, I don't know, I'm noticing a lot in my making of lesson plans for that class is that I feel like I'm skimming the surface, but especially because I only have half an hour of one day a week.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do I dig deeper in something? Because there's so much I want to cover, because the topics that we're reaching, like, big topics, there's really no, like, small topic that you can pick, and so I think the theming helps, but other than that, like, it's really hard to, like, and especially because our theme, like, didn't really work very well with TPR.
Yeah.
Like, I made it work, but it's not how I want it to be, and so it's kind of like, I don't know. I want it to be quality, but it's hard.
Yeah, I think we're experiencing, like, the challenge of keeping it not accommodating the material so that it's lesser in terms of like complexity, but like still, like the.
It's just rough when you have so little time, because I feel like every single time we go back, it's been a week, and I feel like I need to like almost re-warm up each time, which takes away from even more time.
And it's also because you're concerned for your partner. You want them to have enough time for their part of their activity or lesson. So it's just, it's hard, as you could say.
Okay. There was something. Let's go back to the article. Okay.
For the culturally sustaining
pedagogy.
Yeah. Well, first I thought that was hard to read.
Yeah, it was really hard to
I was
read.
like,
even though it was short, like every word I was like, ugh.
it was really hard. But there were some parts I got to, I was like, oh.
Yeah,
that's so true.
There it goes, like it all links.
It's clicking.
Yeah, it all
clicking,
clicks
I get
now.
it.
Yeah.
Like at the very beginning, I was like, I do not understand what cultural sustainable pedagogy is. And then like 3/4 of the way through the article, I read one thing. I was like, oh.
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I still like had like troubles really like fully understanding it.
Same.
And so I just like Googled it and or maybe on YouTube, whatever. But I found this video that kind of explained it.
I like your video.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just thought that was really helpful, and it made me think like, okay, well, like when I'm teaching, and I think like we're experiencing this a lot at Allen, that like when we're teaching, that words aren't always the most effective way to communicate it, and so like just reading that wasn't like the most effective way for me to learn what that was, just because I had a hard time like almost decoding like what was being said, just because it was like a scholarly, it was dense and stuff. Anyway, so it just made me think of like, okay, well, like how can I be like culturally responsive in a way that's not just me like talking and like more actions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And how, just like I guess like the assumptions that go along with like, okay, well if I speak in this way, they're gonna understand me. Like doesn't always work.
Yeah.
You know, like no matter how clear I'm being, like it's not gonna always be clear to them.
Yeah.
And also, you said something and it reminded me. The article was talking about like using the words cultural relevance and cultural responsiveness is not necessary. Like that's kind of what like the article was about, in that she wants to change. Was it a she? Wants to change the wording to culturally sustainable instead of relevant or responsive, because apparently like relevant and responsive doesn't like support keeping the literacy enough, which is like once I read that I was like, oh okay, I'm kind of understanding. And then there was like just
well, it makes sense in this way that like you don't want to be reactive, you want to be proactive.
Yeah.
And so instead of responding or reacting to culture or diversity, you want to like sustain. You want to be proactive in that instead of just like, oh, there it is, let me react and like let me respond to it. So I think that's pretty important.
When you were mentioning about like how to incorporate in the classroom, my website that I included like provided different like more concrete practices or examples to include in the classroom, and a couple of them, just so you all can hear, they like take an existing written assignment and transform it into a visual multi-modal assignment, which I think is kind of like taking a step forward instead of the whole repetition kind of thing. And I mean, I thought this was pretty useful because I mean, it also includes like, I know you don't like to incorporate social media into your activities, but it mentioned like including tweeting, texting, Facebooking. So that's something that the students can kind of relate to, but of course not pushing it to the point where it's like, this is our world kind of thing.
I mean, I understand it with older students, but I'm going to be working with younger ones, and I don't really feel the need to
push that when they're so young.
Yeah, when they're so young, since it's already such
I feel
a
like you're like 7th grade. That's a suggestion, but I mean that's just what my website had.
Yeah, we definitely found out, at least I did, on this yesterday, past whatever day it was.
They love their
Monday.
cell phones.
They love their cell phones, and we didn't like really know that. I don't think they really exposed that much, but I mean, like 2 or 3 times, like before, like when we went out to recess, and then during our break, and then after, they're just like,
they're selfies all
the time, and we're like, what? Like, where did that come from? So I don't know if it was just like a selfie day or if it was.
There was this 4th grader or something that was like, oh, I need my cell phone, and then I don't know who it was. One of the pre-service teachers was like, you don't need your phone.
That's funny.
Okay, so there's one part of the article that I got to, and like there was a quote, and it made me like think about just think in general, because it said that it is brutally clear that current policies are not interested in sustaining the languages and cultures of long-standing and new-coming communities of color in the U.S. And that was like a really like straightforward, like harsh sentence almost to read, because it was like, yeah, that's true, because it started talking about like, oh, it's speaking only English in the classrooms and like all that kind of stuff, and I was like, that's like, I don't know, it just sounded really like brutal. And like,
I feel like that's kind of how you have to say it nowadays, because I feel like people have been saying it the nice way for years, and no one has listened, and now I feel like the only way you can say it is straight up, like, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
It's like, you gotta deal with it, you gotta fix it.
It's like that quote that you mentioned last week. You're like, hearing it, someone actually say it makes you like think, oh, you're right.
Yeah. That's like with D'Angelo or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, everything she said was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Whoa, that was straightforward.
As soon as someone says it, like, you can't take a step back. Like, it's there. It's in your mind.
It's like, right, you have to kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, that goes on with the whole, when she said, she was like, and there's not enough of, like, putting it on the table, keeping it on the table.
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, that needs to be kept on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting.
I mean, I think it's important to obviously important to keep that in mind and to like constantly think about like your actions and how they interact with that idea. But it's also like I don't know. I feel like I've been experiencing being in like a bilingual school for the first time. How it's so hard for the students to feel so comfortable speaking their own language, and I don't know what they're saying. And so it's like I don't know. I realized it was like, oh, well, that's how classrooms start with the only speak English.
Yeah.
Because the teacher can't understand what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
and like I don't know. I think that I don't know. I just think that it's important to like always keep that like your classroom can't just be just speak English because you're taking so much away.
And like I understand there's a difference between the students just chit-chatting when they're not supposed to in their own language. Like that's the same thing as when students are talking out of turn in English. So I think like a lot of times teachers will see the students talking when they're not supposed to be talking, but they'll see them hear them in a different language and they won't be able to understand them, and that is harder for the teacher than when students are talking in English because at least they know what they're saying and they can kind of like regulate it, and it's just like always an unknown thing. Like unknown things are hard for people, so when you don't know what they're saying, you're gonna be harsher. I feel like
that was partially like with what you were saying, Abby. When we were out at recess, I heard the kids like talking like Spanish, and I bit my tongue because like I'm not used to it. So I was just like, I was gonna say, I'll speak only English because I remember when I was younger, that's how my mom, like their school did it, but of course they change it now. But it's just like, I guess it was like the whole ticker tape thing.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, no, that like we're not here for like we're not colonizing them. Like they're allowed to be speaking their language, but we're also trying to incorporate English. But I surprised myself because I was like.
Because you thought that?
It's okay. I mean, like, it's not anything, I don't think it's anything bad. Like, So,
I caught myself when I was, we were having a problem in our little community of students where some of the girls were having fights with each other, and I partnered unknowingly, two sets of girls, and both girls did not get along because of something that happened earlier in the day. And didn't know that, but I realized that they weren't talking to each other, and so I went over, and it just happens to be the two L1s partnered with two L3s, or maybe it was another L1, but she speaks like probably L2, L3. Sorry, I was choked. And I noticed that when I was talking, since I was speaking English, I just assumed that the L1, since I can't generally understand what they're saying because they speak Spanish so much, and they are really shy with speaking English at all in class, but I feel like they know what I'm saying. Like generally when I look at them, they look like they know what I'm saying. They just don't know really what to respond with or like how to respond. But I noticed that when I was talking to just a group of two with like an L3 and an L1, I would talk to the L3 and then not really talk in a direct way to the L1, which I thought was just really bad conduct. I feel like it was, like looking back on it, I think it might have been a little rude if they had noticed, which I don't know if they did or not. And so like next time I make sure I do that. But I noticed that in my ticker tape too was like unknowingly like centering myself around English speaking. Like we were talking about that earlier in class, how you like center yourself around English speaking people, and like if someone doesn't speak English, it's harder to. So I noticed that, and I was like, oh, I should really fix that. I shouldn't do that.
It's like the whole immersion thing, both in 434 and in SPED. Like the teacher, or more specifically SPED, the teacher was really closed up when it came to speaking the language. So I mean, like I guess I don't think you were doing that. I don't know how you were doing it.
Yeah.
But it's just like that's how I kind of still feel like I'm, with just having to get used to working with L1, L2, with all those levels. Like it's just like making sure to go in with an open mind, which is actually challenging for me because I'm just so used to the way it is right now. But I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we
feel
don't even
like-
have any L1s.
And I get really nervous in every class in this school just because they always say like you teach the way you're taught, but then other teachers say, well, you were taught wrong, and it's like, oh, okay, like where am I left now? Like, I only have my college experience to draw back on, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. And I look back and I'm like, wow, they all did it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So what am I gonna look back like when it comes to it? I don't want to instinctively draw back on my 5th grade teacher, you know, who may or may not have done it wrong.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Maybe their time, back then it was right out of
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
it
I
was
see
the
what you're
right
saying.
way to do it when they were. But now that people are telling me it's the wrong way, I'm
Now it's
like,
our
oh.
turn.
Yeah.
We have a lot. Like, I don't know. There's a lot to learn, but I mean, we can only learn so much of it here. Like, it's really just gonna take a lot of time and like experience.
Like we said last week, it's all trial and error.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I feel so bad for like my first kids, for my first class. I'm sorry. I hope I didn't like mess you guys up.
Oh,
That's why I'm not doing kindergarten.
no. Oh, man.
That's funny. Yeah, it's weird how, like, your assumptions and, like, the ticker tape are so, I don't know, how we can notice them now.
But
Because,
Yeah.
you know, it's like a habit. Like, when somebody, if you, like, smack your lips or like, if you do some weird glitch thing or whatever. Like, once somebody points it out and you start to notice it, like, all the time, and you're like, wow, I do that a lot. And you're just, like, start to kind of, like, go down into, like, your little hole.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just like, wow, I need to stop that. But then it's like, our ticker tape is so much different than theirs is. Like theirs meaning the ELL students or newcomers or anybody else for that matter. Like ours is already gonna be different. So I don't know. It's just like I don't know how to like other than just like continuously experiencing different things and like continuously having that on my mind to like try to catch it. Like that ticker tape, like you said, like wait, what is it? What am I doing? Or like, what am I thinking? I don't know. I don't know what else to do about it, I guess. Yeah. It's just, I guess, difficult.
For the
assumptions are hard.
For the ticker tape, is it like the same ticker tape you use wherever you go, or is it like a ticker tape for school, a ticker tape for,
I think it's just whatever runs through your mind.
Because, I mean, becoming a teacher, I guess it's not the ticker tape, it's more of just like, kind of like the wall that you have to build in a way to, like if you're with your friends, you're kind of more open, you can like say like mean things and stuff versus like when you're with students, you really have to like.
But my friends, like, you're just
Very much. But like when you're with like your, colleagues and your students, you really have to like kind of be more cautious, I guess you could say. So I'm just wondering like, I mean, you know how like they say with like different masks that you put on?
Yeah.
I was just curious if that was like the same.
I mean, probably.
I think with ticker
Just
tapes,
regulate
it's
it
just
less.
like all the time. Like for
The
me,
constant.
But it's like
for
how much
me,
you
it's,
regulate
like
it.
constant. Yeah, like even if I have a friend who has like I don't know, I don't want to say this, but who has like a disability or who is a different race than I am, if I think of someone or someone else thinks of something that's in the front of your mind, like I think that's just a constant mediation. Like you're always gonna encounter things where you're gonna be like, wow, her dress is too short, and then you're gonna think about, wow, that was really mean of me to say.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't be saying that about someone I don't even know. Like just constant
Okay.
learning process.
Perfect.
And I don't think it'll ever stop.
And what you were saying, for some reason, kind of reminded me of something I think our teacher said today in sped. I don't know. It's like for some reason in my head, and I don't know where I heard it, but I'm assuming it was that. She said, like, there's going to be, like, teacher you. Like, you're not going to be completely who you are. You're going to be teacher version of yourself. So, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like that's kind of like you're going to be, like, friend version of yourself. Like, when you're with your friends. And, like, teacher version of yourself when you're with your students. And, like, so, yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be slightly different, but it's not so much like the ticker tape changes. It's more like how you're regulating it. Because, like, obviously you need to be, like, more careful about what you say out loud with students versus what you say with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. Yeah. But then it's also like, well, then how do we like correlate that back to that culturally sustaining like idea instead of like responding? Because
Yeah.
I don't know. Up until this point, it's always been like being culturally responsive.
Yeah.
You know, like that's
Like you're aware of it. And you're
yeah.
yes.
But I don't know. I feel like that's a transition. Clearly, that the author wanted us to make and everything like that. But how does that really, like, how do we make that transition while we're still in school? You know, like while we're still trying to learn how to do all this.
Yeah.
It's a good money question.
The thing that confused me about this article.
30. What was it?
30.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
30.
How to transition from being culturally responsive to culturally sustaining in our teaching methods while we're still in school.
And see, what confused me about this article is that it kept talking about, like, for instance, it said that, oh, to, like, make teaching and learning relevant and responsive to language literacy and cultural practices for all students. Okay, that's what you're telling us to do, but you just told us to be relevant and responsive. How is that being, like, sustainable?
Maybe that's being sustainable in the way that you're doing something about it.
Yeah.
Like you're continuing.
Like, I got really confused throughout the article whether it was, like, being like, oh, this is what we were thinking, but now, like, I think we should be thinking this, or if it's still, like, everything that we had been thinking is still, like, correct. It just needs to be, like, kind of, like, put into a bigger circle of becoming sustainable, not just relevant and responsive.
But maybe relevant and responsive are still
Like, subsets of.
Yeah.
I see.
Mm-hmm.
You want to talk about chapter 4 now?
Did I already talk about that?
That's what we've been.
Yeah, we already talked about that.
Well,
Like, we talked about acculturation.
I guess like mine was just talking about like the different assessment tools and stuff, like the informal versus formal, and stuff. Which there were some really cool ones in there.
There were.
Like the cultural quilt, I thought was really cool.
Yeah, it reminded me of the quilt that's in the front of
I
Alan.
love
Yeah,
that
I
quote.
think it's so cool. Yeah.
There was this like student interview thing that was in the book, like a little worksheet thing that I really liked because it was like super simple, just like, oh, like draw or write something about where you're from, and then it was like draw or write something that you're good at in school, or like some strengths that you have in school and some weaknesses, and then I was just like circle like the smiley faces to like what level you are at like these things. I thought it was just like super easy because it was like they could just draw pictures and it was like really simple and you got to like actually find out a lot about your students through it. I really liked it and I wish I had my book so I could show you guys. But
Yeah.
it's in your book. So.
Yeah, there are some really cool ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I was kind of wondering about, and I guess it goes more into like the video of the children and of the Cambodian refugees. Is how to include parents into like the classroom community, I guess. And I don't know, other than like have them like come like talk with you or you go talk to them or you know stuff like that. Like I didn't really know what else. Like how do I know it's like you can go into the community and you get involved with like knowing what's out there, like what's accessible and stuff like that to the community, but like bringing the community into your classroom, I thought was I don't know, something that
it's also like home visits to get to know the parents better.
But I don't know. I've never experienced like home visits.
Yeah, neither have I. I've heard about them a lot. Not being least, but I've never.
Yeah, I don't know what they look like or like I don't know. I feel like that would almost be like invasive to go and like knock on the door and just.
I mean, me like one of the things I said was like even having like the parent come in and help out. Like,
but like, would they?
If they can.
That's the key.
I know they always say like, well, they're probably
that's
like
why they have volunteers. Yeah.
Yeah, like they probably already went to jobs. Like they may have a job. They have other kids.
They need to work.
Yeah. So it's like they don't miss, and that's like a big thing with conferences.
Yeah.
It's like they don't want to come or they can't come or like.
And with the Cambodia video, like it was really interesting because hearing about the different cultural, like the cultural differences between how parents are with their student, like with their kids in the American culture versus the Cambodian culture, and how like all these students that were raised in America were like, oh, like my friends' parents, they get to actually have conversations with them and tell them about their day, and like I don't know, I just definitely took that for granted. I'm not like, oh yay, I can call my mom and tell her how my day was, and like tell her like how I'm doing in school. She'll be so proud of me. Like I don't think about that because it's just like something I've always been used to, and like if I want to, I can do it. But like these students were like, I don't get to talk to my parents. I don't get to tell them my accomplishments. Like the only thing they ever know about is if I do something wrong.
Yeah, I had the C. Okay, started it off wrong. Restart. I had C, and C talked about the 5 love languages. And it basically talked about how like I thought it was really interesting because I found really a lot of similarities actually between like the way my family reacted and like what the man was talking about, how the Cambodian parents would react, and I was like, oh, that's strange, but it was basically like, because my parents both worked like a job or two at a time and like went to school some of the time, and so they were almost never there during the week, but then like on the weekend they would make sure that it was basically like sacred family time. And then what was also similar to the Cambodian love language was that instead of saying like, oh, you did such a great job, they would always say, oh, look at Megan over there. She has A's, you got a D. What's wrong with that? Like, and the only time they would ever compliment my grades is if I had like all A's, which I never had. So that never was accomplished.
Well, see, what I found interesting is not necessarily within my own life with my parents, because like I mean everyone has their own stuff, but like I've heard about the 5 love languages so many times, and when he was like, oh, this is the American culture, I was like, wait, I thought that was for everyone all over the whole world. Like, I just did not like get that. I was like, oh, this is only for America? I really thought this was like worldwide thing, and I was like, oh, crazy stuff.
Well, it's also too like with the how you like they couldn't talk to, you know, it was just like they couldn't talk to their parents.
Yeah.
And everything was like, well, no wonder there's like culture shock and stuff like that. You know, like no wonder that acculturation like occurs and everything. And why
it follows you. Like
exactly.
Really
and like the 5 love
languages.
Yeah. Well, it's just like, I mean, that can totally clash with, you know, a teacher or with other friends, parents or whatever like that. And that, you know, I don't know, there's a lot of complexity that I didn't realize in that. And I don't know, I just, when I was watching the video, I have a friend, I guess you probably know him, but from Satya, the one from Nepal. And like he still, you know, sees his parents in Napoleon, and everything. But it's like if he didn't have that, like I wonder what like his relationship with us, like as friends, would be compared to like now that he has that support and everything like that. And so I don't know. It just made me think of that and like how if that was different than if, you know, like would we be friends? Because that's a huge, like to have your parents' support and to be able to like discuss what's going on, like as a kid growing up, like that's a pretty important aspect to it.
Actually, what you just said made me think about. So my part had to do with like gang, which was like a really like random spurt in that video. I feel like, but it's like making more sense as it ties together. But like this isn't what he said in the video at all, and it's probably not related to his story in any way. But when you were saying like not having the support from their parents and like how that would build relationships with other people, it made me think about like maybe students like try to seek other support in different relationships, and that can lead to a lot of times like gang involvement, I think, because it's like they're trying to find people that are going to support them and give them that affirmation and like the love and like respect that they want, that they aren't getting from their parents if they can't speak the same language or if like they're just not on the same page.
I read a story a while ago about a young child who joined gangs in middle school because 2 of his older brothers had been in the same gang.
Yeah, that was in
and it was last quarter or something. And I think that's a lot like that was his family ties were like his brother. Like his dad worked all the time. But like one of the teacher's solutions to it was to get the dad really involved in his schoolwork and like to get the dad in a bunch of times to all the meetings, have the kid be there, have like this communication with the translator and everything. Like even though the child like didn't have a hard time learning English, like everything else was kind of struggling because of like the support that he was getting.
Yeah.
And then just to continue with that, just because like I'll actually talk about what the video part actually talked about with the games, because that was like a kind of tangent. It just reminded me. But with that child, what was hard is that he realized that, like, how do I put this? That he was getting in trouble for something that wasn't actually true. Like, it was just like a made up story. And he went into the office. And there's all those people.
Girl, yeah.
Yeah, and he knew his parents should be there.
Yeah.
But they aren't contacted because they can't, like, understand what's happening. And, like, and he can't tell his parents, like, all they're going to know is that he got in trouble. But he can't, like, tell them, like, what happened.
Yeah.
Like, and so, I don't know, it's just really hard. I feel like it's, like, one of my biggest things I feel, like, with my parents is being able to defend myself for something that they might think happened, and I can, like, explain to them that happened differently. And if you couldn't do that, that would be so hard. Like,
It'd be so frustrating.
yeah.
But I also wonder how common that is. Like, how common is it that, I mean, like,
That a student
nowadays.
speaks English and the parents speak it. I think it's
Yeah,
fairly
Yeah,
common
I feel like it's fairly common, especially like
with immigrant families.
with immigrant families. Working, I spent a summer working at a refugee transition center before coming to Bellingham, and a lot of the students were very frequent. Like, they were really wanting to learn how to speak English because a lot of their friends that they're making, who may be from the same area or like the same ethnicity from them, they speak English too, so they want to speak English because that might be like the commonality or something that's just a cool thing to do. Because learning English is a gift, or it's like a really cool, good thing for some people.
And they lose their other language.
Yeah, so then they end up losing their other language. So I feel it's just that I feel like that's becoming more frequent.
Yeah.
That's just Regarding jumping back, should we make the money question the how to bring community into the classroom? Did you want to?
Oh, sure.
yeah.
That's a good
Wait,
one.
where was that?
It was like at 37, I think.
Okay, right
Okay, come on, scribe.
there. I have observed that you are writing, and that makes me think that.
Are you doing whole question?
Yeah. Yeah, I am.
Oh.
From SCAD and the whole, what's it called? Do we want to talk
Whole
about
messages.
the whole messages? Yeah. Do we want to talk about what's due? That one thing?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
so-
I looked it up. Okay,
So just the context
for the
part?
context, which I had a question for it because I'm wondering if, because I feel like with us, we've just been working so much with the group that we haven't got a lot of one-on-one time at all. Like, we know who our students are, we just picked
Yeah,
those.
same.
But like yesterday, I worked one-on-one with a different girl just while you were doing your lesson. Just because we had already paired up them strategically. That didn't work so well. But like, I don't know, I guess because the context says describe any contextual information that will help the reader understand your observations and recommendations. Introduce the reader to your student to offer a sense of who the student is, how you interacted with him or her, and of the settings in which you interacted. Describe the kinds of activities the student is involved in beyond your interaction, classes, programs, professional contacts, etc.
I haven't had time to work with them at all.
So I don't know if that is more so when we go into the classroom, when we go before,
Yeah.
and work with them in that way, but we don't know who their classroom teachers are.
They're on the list.
Are they?
We know ours,
Aren't
but
all of your students in the same class or no?
No, they're in two
No.
different classes.
Oh, ours are all.
yeah,
we
we
have
got
them,
lucky.
though.
It's
It's
all
on
one
the-
grade and one class.
It's on the list.
We
Because
should do
their
that
teachers'
next week.
names.
Yeah, did you guys
Do we just
email
email them?
Yeah.
Is that what we
Yeah.
I think we
do?
email them. We also need to email the ESL teacher.
Yeah.
And get in contact. Well, I guess we're different than you guys.
Yeah, we have the different.
Wait, don't we have the same, since we have this, like,
No, we have the one.
oh,
in
the younger one.
wheelchair.
younger one.
oh,
Um,
it's her. Oh, I thought it was the other.
So I guess
But
there's
that's hard,
like
'cause I have
that
it work
interview.
with
There's
them all.
like interview questions I know that are on here.
When do they expect? Like, when are we expected to like do this?
I think maybe if we can go observe them in a classroom and then maybe ask their teacher, like, could I steal them for like 10 minutes or something like that?
Yeah.
Well, I think it's supposed to be more like a group thing. Though. Like, you ask questions in group and then you just make note of yours.
We should look at the rest of the lesson plans because that who knows that might be.
Well, the next one after TPR is grammar.
No.
So
we can also post that on the page. So Facebook.
Ugh.
Maybe somebody else.
That might be something you could work into grammar. Questioning.
Christian, like, what do you like to do?
And they can write a sentence.
Yeah,
And then they
formatting.
Noun, verb,
Yes. So,
prepositional
anyways,
phrase.
that's what the context is. And then we're supposed to start writing that.
What to do?
Beans.
I do. Let me look at the one I do.
Just not do it.
And I don't have to babysit tomorrow anymore, which is good and bad.
No money.
Won't get paid.
No money, but I can work on my lesson plan.
When do we wanna? So we wanna email.
You know,
Our
the teacher,
teachers
email ESL.
And you're gonna try to go on Monday, right?
Yes.
You want an email or you want me to email?
Really? You
Where do we find our
say
emails?
things better, but I just
Online.
want to also. Can you like CC me if you do it?
Yeah.
Let me see
yeah,
what
Just
Whatever
so I am
should
like
be.
also. I want to be able to like get the notifications, but I am not eloquent.
I think I have. Do you have that?
I'm not eloquent.
Okay.
If you
Yeah,
haven't
it says their
noticed.
teachers'
We're
names.
fine. Alright, so
I'm looking.
Are we done? Should I turn this off for this board?
Um,
Or do we have more to talk about?
sorry.
let's see. Okay, read through. Okay, so this is on post 5, which we just had.
Mhm.
Session part 1 of this case study, context of the case study, Submit part 1 of the case study, context of the case study assignment. You can submit as many documents as you want. Discuss this with your group and be prepared to share some of your service learning journals. And that was in post 5, so technically I think
Let's
that's
do this Sunday.
Sunday.
The context?
Yeah,
But I don't have anything yet.
but it says that you can submit as many as you want. So it's like if you find more.
So you're kind of like
just
building it
submit.
up.
Oh,
You're
okay.
building. You're like starting.
something.
And I think it's just so that we aren't, 1, procrastinating, and 2, it's not like we get to the end of the quarter and it's just like, oh, here's this big old project that,
And it's like you remember all these things. That you're
Yeah, it's easier to
Yeah.
do them while you have
like,
them.
yeah. So I think that's just,
You
That,
decide who you're
but-
doing.
I thought we discussed this.
Yeah, but she didn't show up.
Okay, are we done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bye!
Okay, Abby, do you want to